like to give everybody out there listening a very warm White Cat welcome, because you're tuned in to the White Cat Outdoors podcast. Hello, everybody. White Cat Outdoors podcast, episode number 30. And I had to ask Nick right beforehand, and he thought I wasn't going to ask, and I was going to look like a fool, but I did not.
Yep. Frank can never remember the episodes. You know, he's done 29 of them now.
30 now.
Well, you haven't done this one yet.
Yeah, but I've said the episode.
Yep. Anyway.
You guys just heard Luke.
It.
He's here.
Yeah, we're way in it,
here.
guys. I just pulled back-to-back shifts so I could be here. So
yeah, you've been on a real bunch.
He sounded really excited when I called him at about 4 o'clock. Said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?"
Yeah, I had visions of a nice warm bed, and actually told Nick that around 4 o'clock that I could do it. And then when I got home, I was already sleeping around like 4:45, and Nick woke me back up and said, "Hey, don't forget about the podcast." So
already forgot.
Here we sit.
Yeah, well, we're real glad that you made it, buddy.
Before we get started into what we're talking about, Frank has one hell of a story to open us up with here. You know, we are the working man, and Frank likes to work sometimes.
I don't like it, but I do it.
But Frank works. So, Frank, why don't you just give us a rundown on how your day went today?
Yeah, it's not like a phenomenal story. It's just kind of a real shit part of my day. I was rolling around on the lawnmower, and I was on the tractor, and I was pulling a mower behind me. And I was going through this apple orchard, and I looked behind me to make sure that the mower is going to clear this one tree. So I turned my head backwards. I'm like, okay, we're good to go. Start to turn my head back, and halfway turn my head back, the windshield exploded. There was like just a little guy, little branch poking out. It was dead, and it touched the windshield just right, and it shattered it. I was covered in glass. It was a great time. And yeah,
that's a great way to start your day.
Yeah, it didn't start my day. It was about 10 o'clock, so...
Oh, so like right in the meat of the day.
Yeah, it was right after lunch.
Yeah, that's
it was perfect. Like, it was closer to 11 then, I guess. But yeah, it exploded. I was sitting there with glass in my lap. I could feel all the little glass slivers in my arm. I was like, that's good. I love that.
That is good stuff. Go report that to the boss man.
Oh yeah, I called him. I was like, hey, I kind of messed up a little bit.
Like some kids came by and they threw a bunch of rocks at me.
Yeah,
they shattered the thing.
Yeah.
They headed that way, though. I
ran them off before they could break anything else.
Yeah, you're lucky it was just the one, Greg, I tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was my day. After that, though, it was a good day. Before and after, it was just that one little
part.
That little sweetheart in the middle.
It always seems like there is just one thing that happens every day that just ruins it from having that perfect day.
Yeah.
Very seldom you get those.
Yeah. But we're podcasting now, and I'm having a beer, relaxing. So
yeah, all the
who
worries
cares?
are gone.
Yeah.
So since we're podcasting, what are we talking about?
Yeah, what are we talking about, Luke? Why did you pull this double shift to make this happen?
Yeah, well, it sounds like the reason I'm here is it's probably gonna be fishing, because it's about all I know. Mm-hmm. But walleye fishing to be exact.
It's a hot time of year for it.
It's in full swing right now. The school kind of moved from Ohio and is right in Erie now, so everybody and their brother that's got a boat's been taking them out and just putting a hammer on the fish. But
have you been catching them pretty steady all season long?
Earlier in the year, it was a little bit tough. The whole weather and COVID and just it's been a super...
Fish got affected by COVID pretty hard?
Yeah, they've been maintaining social distancing, so...
tough to catch them when they're 6 foot from your hook.
It is.
Yeah, I hear the mortality rate's much higher in fish.
Very, very. I test every single one that I pull up on the boat, and almost 100% of them test positive, and I just have to throw them in my cooler because I don't want to put them back to...
They're going to die anyway.
You know, it's good that you're cleaning up the lake like that.
Yeah, I try. You. But anyways, like I'm not saying that COVID's affecting the fish, but I'm saying just affecting our fishing patterns, and more people went out, and then when they got back to work, then less people were out, so it was tough. If you had communication with people, it was tough to figure out where the fish are if you aren't physically out there doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but with the winter we had, I mean, even around here, New York, Ohio, the steelhead run was off.
We never really had a freeze on
No,
the lake this winter.
I think I ice fished 3 times this year. And,
But I mean, the lake, it hardly froze at all in the lake.
No. But all the fish still shot over to Ohio, but took them a little bit to come back because the weather never really warmed up, and then we had a 2-week period that was in the 90s and just pushed a ton of fish over. But I've been going out a couple times, trying to get out maybe once or twice a week. And
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I don't know the depths of the lake. Do we have deeper water or shallow water on the PA water as opposed to Ohio water?
So our water.
Are you asking why they go from Ohio to PA?
Yeah, because the temperature's obviously got something to do with it, but I'm sure the depth
they're
changes
coming
the temperature.
to the warmer water.
Okay.
is what.
So
they're
we're
doing.
shallower then.
Yeah. Well, it depends on
For
where
the
you go.
most part.
Yeah, because you can
you can find the
you can
deep
go out
holes.
into the trench, or
Yeah.
you can come right into the shallows. I mean, a lot of the fish when they first move over from Ohio, and they're in PA, are sitting in 18 to 24 foot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's where a lot of guys earlier in the season were doing better jigging for walleye than the guys were trolling for them, because guys trolling for them were in 30 foot of water and just moving, but the fish were still kind of lethargic. So the guys who were jigging in 12,
holding it in front of their
14
face,
foot of water, were actually limiting out. I saw a couple times my buddy Hunter Daniels went out and limited out on walleye jigging for him. But as far as right now, it's starting to speed back up, and so is the boat traffic, because everybody for the past 2 years has been professional walleye fishermen.
I was just about to ask you about that, because
Erie County, so it gets kind of annoying out there when you've been doing it for a while and all of a sudden it gets easy, and hey, everybody that lives in an hour radius and has a boat is now a professional walleye fisherman.
Yeah.
But I mean, to each their own. I mean, it's great that everyone's catching fish now, and we got the fish to catch, so it's not like we're hurting our numbers. We're still having record hatches every year, and I've thrown back a ton of fish this year, just smaller walleye, so it's good to see that.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I remember not so much last year, but 2 years ago, really, like, everybody was catching like 100 walleye a day, but they were 15 inchers.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're still getting record hatches every year. Have you been noticing those 15 inchers bumping up? Are you catching a lot fewer of the 15s and more, in the upper 20s?
We are catching a lot of nice fish this year. A lot of big bag fish too. Like I've caught, I don't know, maybe close to a dozen this year that are above that like 27 to 30 mark. Yeah, so there's a lot of big fish. But still, there is a lot of. Actually, I think this year I've caught some of the smallest walleye I've ever caught,
really?
Trolling like 12 inches that are
really?
just a few inches bigger than the plug. But it's good to see. I mean, it's tough sometimes. You got to really watch what you're doing, because I don't know to the guys listening how often you've been trolling and reeled in a line and you were dragging a real small one, and it's a shame, because I'll be honest, I've done it before, but sometimes depending on how long you drag them, that fish won't make it, and it's sad you can't keep it. But you really just got to watch your poles and check them and keep checking them, even if you don't think there's anything on them, because a lot of times those smaller fish don't
pull any harder than the plug.
Yeah. So just always check your lines and keep rotating. If you think there's a fish on it, check it. Just to avoid dragging those smaller fish. And if you're dragging a smaller fish, then bigger ones can't hit that lure if there's a smaller fish on it. So you'll catch more fish that way, even if you are pulling lines out and flipping them back out. It's a little more work, but
but it's more productive in the end.
Yeah. But
so
go ahead.
Yeah, do you want to like break down a little bit about how you run your boat? We were talking before we hit record. How there's 100 different ways to fish for walleye. You had mentioned Hunter's jigging for them, and then there's tons of different ways. So if you want to break down kind of how
there's like Nick said.
You can kind of go
earlier.
through which different ways there are to do it, and then how you do it.
Yeah, there's 100 ways to do them, like we were saying, but All of them suck except my way. My way's the best. No, I'm just messing with you.
Sounds about right.
No matter how you catch them, it's great. I've been on a dozen different boats, and no two boats ran them exactly the same way. Everyone's got their own unique little twist, and we've talked about it 100 times with hunting and fishing and hiking and camping and whatever you want. The reason you do it is because it's fun, and you have like little tricks that, whether they actually work or not, just keep you in it and make you think you have the edge. But
It was like last week talking about how I used to hang dough estrus wafers from my hat.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
not
Some
necessarily the
people
only
swear by it.
yeah.
Yeah, you just if
Most
it keeps
don't.
you out there. Yeah, most people don't, but that's it. Just everybody's got their own way of doing things.
Yeah, and so whatever it is, if you're, what is it? I'm looking for a word. I think it starts with a P. It's about bananas.
Papaya.
Could be papaya.
Not precautious.
What does that have to do with bananas?
You're not supposed to have bananas on your boat. It's bad luck.
Oh, superstitious.
I was thinking it started with a P.
Well, I mean, people that are superstitious about the
paranoid.
bananas.
Paranoid,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah, I don't. There is a word for it, but
It's a mix of superstitious and
yeah,
paranoia.
I think it's But anyways, if that's you think that you can't catch a fish with a banana on the boat, then do that. I mean, if you want to hang dough estrus from your hat, then all the power to you.
I've killed bucks with dough estrus hanging from my hat. So
And I've caught fish while eating a banana. So
have you?
Yes.
That's nice.
So
Some say it's impossible.
it's like I think there
What do you-
might have been an east wind too. I
How
was
do you
eating a
hold the
banana
banana?
on an east wind.
I can almost picture, not that I want to,
Please,
but
please,
you
please picture
holding the banana
with
somehow.
the rod in my hand.
Yeah, so you're like just biting onto this banana.
Yeah,
No hands.
It has to be a
And
soft bite, a subtle bite. It's a very
So you're just holding this banana softly with your
grasping
lips while you reel this fish in.
There's a little teeth.
Little teeth.
I think we've had enough of this.
Okay, so no bananas on your boat.
And no bananas on the boat, no catch fish. Moving on. So
How about we get back to walleye fishing now?
right,
Yeah, how do you do it, Luke?
no bananas anymore after the pictures. Anyways, so I am a planer board fisherman. So basically, what a planer board is, for those people who don't know, you have your main hull, your boat that you're on, and you have a mast, either one out like in the front or two off the sides, and you make they're called planer boards, and they basically just a little boat attached to a string. And what you do is you tie that string to your planer boards, and you let out string from your boat so that the planer boards drift back behind the boat as you're driving. Once they get far enough back, however far you want to do your spread, you lock the strings. And the way that you build the planer boards, they're designed to pull against the boat so that they drift away from the boat. So they're not hanging straight behind you, they're actually off to the sides. What that does is that allows you to attach your lines to the strings that are attached to the planer boards. So instead of just being able to fish, 4 rods off the boat or on downriggers, I can fish a 50 to 75 yard spread of lures, so that when I'm going through an area, I'm really wide, really covering some area to make sure that any fish that's in that area, I'm presenting something to it.
When you run that setup, do you like to go like one side as the same lure, the other side's different, or do you like break up
So-
each individual lure?
Some people swear by, they start off with, I fish usually 8 rods, 4 on each side on my planer boards, depending on the crew I got. If it's just 2 people, we'll have to fish 6, but usually we can get 3 or 4 people, and I fish 4 rods on each side. And I personally start with 4 similar lures on one side as to the other. They'll be the same style lure, whether it's a reef runner, or a Berkeley, or a Bagley, or whatever you want to run, Kinchows or whatever.
Do you just change the colors on
Just
them?
change the
Okay.
color, yeah. And on the other side, so that'll usually be like where I know the fish are. Say I'm fishing 30 foot of water. I know the fish are suspended at 20. I'll throw an 18-foot diver to be a little bit above them on one side. And then on the other side of the boat, I'll throw a real shallow lure. because a lot of times in the morning we call it that early bite, and the fish are suspended real high, but you can't even see them on the fish finder because
so they're like right up close to the surface.
Yeah, but because when you're driving over them, the fish can see your boat and they scatter off to the sides. By the time you get over them, your fish finder doesn't see them. So a lot of people, they don't mark any fish, but they're still there. So if you have those shallower diving lures, you'll pick up a lot of fish in the morning before that sun comes out that most of the other people don't pick up
because they're too deep.
Now, who's ever listened to this
that sounds like
podcast? I know there's
secret.
not a ton of people listening to this podcast right now. So
There's a lot.
there's how many?
A lot.
So many.
I don't even have a number. That's how many.
Okay, so to all the listeners to our podcast,
Especially our buddy over in Ireland. We were told to shout this guy out. Don't know your name, but there's a solid listener over in Ireland that I'd love for him to shoot us a message just because, like, I want to know how he found us.
Yeah, that would be an interesting story. But
Yeah.
if he's a solid listener, then I think he does deserve a shout out.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe we can get him a
have
hat.
a pint over FaceTime or something. And
It's not a bad idea.
It's a real good idea.
Really good idea. We'll get some. What's Sam like?
Jameson.
We'll get some Jameson over some ice
Yep,
for our Irish buddy.
Heck yeah.
sounds good. But
Anyways,
back to all these listeners.
Keep
the
that
secret.
keep that to yourself because that'll give you the edge over everybody else. As soon as
Except you.
except me, yeah, I will catch more fish than you. No, I'm not the best by any means. I'm still young. I don't have as many years on the water as some of these older guys, but I like to think I know what I'm doing out there. But anyways, so that's how I start. And once the fish start moving a little bit deeper, I'll switch my shallow side out to some deeper stuff. And once I notice, say, one color keeps firing, I don't know what it is. It would make sense. This is probably why I don't catch as many fish as I could. But it's, if one color continues to fire, you think that you would switch out, your lures with that color that continues to fire, but I think that's a bunch of baloney. So I go with something that's close to that color. I don't go with the exact one, but if it's
Do you have the exact one?
Yeah, most of the time I got like full sets for.
So you just choose to not.
Yeah, but I like to get close because I know that something similar to that's working. So say I got like a trick or treat out there or something that's really hammering the fish. Maybe it's that nice white like color. I'll throw more lighter stuff. Like I'll throw maybe like a bare naked or a banana boat or something like in the lighter.
I thought you
colors,
said you
but-
didn't have bananas on your boat.
Oh jeez, that's
It's
another
a
can of
banana
worms.
boat, not a banana on the boat.
A banana boat, but banana hammock I think is what it's called.
So you banana hammocks on the boat.
With the banana boat.
Yep.
It's just a color lure. But anyways, ooh, hey now.
Getting wild.
But yeah, so I switch out to follow whatever lure's firing. Some days every color's going off, and other days they just are a little particular and want a certain color, whether it's dark, light, blue, green, purple, black, whatever. So go do that, and sometimes if it is slow, I usually have a downrigger or two downriggers on the back of the boat, and if I got enough people and can sneak another rod out, I'll throw another rod down on the downrigger just so I can be 100% certain that my lure is directly in the fish. Whether my lure is in charts and line and I can put out 100 whatever odd feet of line and I use whether it's braid or mono or fluoro or whatever you use and read your spec charts, you can get a pretty good guess of how deep your lures are diving. But the most for sure way is if you snap something on a downrigger, you know that that's how deep your lure is.
Yeah.
There's no guess games there. So I like to throw something on the downrigger, whether it's like a small spoon or like a Renoski or some real shallow diving lure. Just
So
drag
it's
it
literally right
in their face. Yeah, I usually go a couple feet back, like 30 feet, 40 feet back, and then tie it off just so there's a nice leader so the ball doesn't distort them. But other than that, I mean, I don't really fish flat lines. I don't really fish dipsies a whole lot.
That's how back in the day before walleye was big, how we used to fish with Grandpa. We used to do a lot on dipsy
We did
divers.
a lot of lead core. We did a lot of dipsies. We did a lot of downriggers.
But that was, like you said, that was back before
That's when
walleye was big, and you didn't need that many lines in.
That's when we had to get into that, we were fishing 70-some foot of water, and we had to get our bait down 50 foot. So we were really, really getting the heavy gear out. And now they're in 20 foot of water for months, halfway through the summer. There's probably still fishing 20
Yeah,
foot
normally
water.
you would expect to quit finding them shortly after the spawn. They would
Yep.
move out and get deeper.
Do you think that is like a direct correlation to like the rising temperatures we've had in the past few years around this area? Because it seems like our summers have gotten warmer and almost offset, where like summer's happening later in the
I was
year.
just gonna say, I think it's more
like
like
it's not necessarily hotter. I guess
Yeah.
it's just the time of year when it's hot.
So we could spool off on this and talk about this for the rest of the podcast about global warming or climate change or whatever you want to call it. But I think, it 100% definitely does have a toll. Think about how it changes your body when the weather changes and goes from hot to cold. It messes people up just as much as, honestly, it probably messes the fish up more than us, because they're so reliant on that temperature, those currents, everything, the barometric pressure, and as much as it can mess people up with causing allergies or making them sick or just fatigue or joints or whatever, the fish are the same way. And so it definitely does have, whether it's a direct correlation or not, I don't know, but it is definitely, I think, a big part of, one, could be why the numbers are high. Our spawns have been really good. The fish come later in the year, but it does seem that they stick around in the shallower water longer than they ever did. Like the lake temperature is like 80 or something right now, like something bizarre. It's
I know a lot of
super hot.
muskie fishermen haven't been going out because it's so hot.
Well, yeah, because if you catch a muskie, you're gonna kill it. Like, it's tough.
So that's just an ethical thing on their part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough for fishing too. You're not gonna get as many. They're gonna be more lethargic. You have to. It actually is kind of counterintuitive sometimes. A lot of people wouldn't think this way, but you're fishing for muskie and they're being lethargic and not wanting to hit, so everyone's, let's go finesse fish, let's get smaller. Well, a lot of times with muskie, that's not the case. You want to throw bigger because they're opportunists and they're not going to waste their time getting a small meal. They're going to wait until they can get a big meal, work hard for it, get it, and then they can relax for a long time while they digest that one meal. So a lot of times when you're, I'm not catching something, go smaller. Well, muskie, not always.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the walleye fishing. That planer board, that's what I do. We talked a little bit about lead core and dipsy divers and whatnot, and jigging. Jigging's more, I don't want to say less effective, because it can be very, very effective, especially if you're where the fish are.
That's more of a situational thing.
I love early season taking my little boat out and jigging for them. You really can. You get a spin rod and you can really feel the fish on light tackle and kind of finesse fish them, and it's a lot of fun. If you're in the fish, it can be just as productive or even more productive than the guys trolling, like I said earlier. But the advantage of trolling is you can cover a lot of water in not a lot of time.
If you're jigging, you're working 10 feet, you know, wherever your boat is. You know.
And you can drift while you're jigging, and I mean, it makes it a little bit harder to figure out how deep your jig heads are and everything. But it's definitely a different way to do it, but I love doing it, especially smaller lakes, like landlocks and everything. A lot of times that's a very, very good way to find where the walleye are, and is just jig them. But those are the two that I've really mainly done. I know a lot of guys, a lot of captains and charters do that lead core with dipsy divers and jet divers, and I actually want to get into salmon fishing on Ontario, and I'm going to do a lot of downrigger fishing. I think is going to be my best bet to get into the salmon.
Yeah,
so,
a lot easier to get down deeper with.
Yeah, tie it to a big hunk of lead and just drown it to the bottom. But as far as this season goes, for those guys wanting to get out and figure out if they're not catching fish in here and other people are. Definitely, I don't want to be this guy, but a lot of times if there's a bunch of boats out in a spot, it's for a reason. I mean, right now there's boats absolutely everywhere, but I'm just trying to find a way to beat around actually saying it because it's hurting me a little bit.
I think everybody knows where you're going,
but
and you can just say, yeah. So
if you
just pay attention to the water.
No, if you're going out of a marina or something and everybody's heading west and you're the only boat east, maybe there's more fish west than east. But sometimes there is. I've been the boat that goes east and catches the fish. So
high risk, high reward.
Yep, it's just kind of if you're new and you're just trying to get into it and you're getting a little discouraged, and because I know some guys that like bought a boat because they had some extra money lying around from
heard the walleye fishing's
good old
good.
Donnie, and heard the fishing was good, and they're getting a little discouraged because they're not catching anything.
Like I bought the boat with the sparkles and everything. Where are the fish?
Yeah. So I mean, start with something that works, that other people have had success on, where other people have had success, and then you can kind of work your own magic and develop your own way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So this might be a dumb question just because I don't do a whole lot of fishing.
It probably is.
But
full of them.
So you had mentioned earlier that you've got like full sets of lures where you've got 4 of this, 4 of that. Where are you getting your lures? Is there like a bulk store where you can kind of like, because that could get. I mean, obviously I know fishing is not a cheap date. It gets very expensive. But is there a place you can go to get like bulk lures? At a more affordable price. Like obviously, if you're buying this many lures, you got to expect to spend
not
some
even
money.
affordable, but like if you go to Walmart, they're not going to have 4 of every color of every lure that
exactly,
you want.
Or even Field and Stream or Cabela's or Bass Pro. Like
Cabela's and Bass Pro usually are pretty
good with all the colors.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like just a local store that you're going to walk into, on an afternoon, you're probably not going to find 1,000 lures in there. You're going to have a few basic colors and styles, and you're just going to have to work with what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times you're going to have to go online. What we've done in the past, if you got a couple other buddies that are walleye fishermen, get together with them, buy bulk. Because a lot of times you can get custom painted lures, so you're the only boat out there that's got this paint, or you can pick a design, but a lot of times you got to do a batch of 50 or a batch of 100. So if you get with your buddies and you get 5 people, okay, well, now you're only splitting 20 lures versus eating the bag and getting 100 of them.
Yeah.
So buy in bulk is probably the best way, because stuff happens. You snap them off, or they get old, or they break, or whatnot. But I was also fortunate enough, my grandpa gave me tons, and when I say tons, I mean tons of lures. I don't think I'll have to ever buy another lure with what I got. So
I just like you said, I knew you. I mean, I've seen the tackle boxes that you got on your boat and Grandpa's got on his, and
it's tough just to go to Walmart and you're not gonna go there and pick up fishing lures and go out. And I mean, you could. I guarantee you, if I were to do like a challenge video or something where I went to Walmart and picked out a rod, reel, line, lure, whatever, I could probably go out and catch a walleye.
The hunting public did that with a bow, or killed a buck with their entire setup was Walmart. They had a bow, arrows, camo, boots, everything was a Walmart purchase, and went out and videotaped. So maybe we could do something like that on a boat, because that'd be pretty sweet. Maybe even use like a raft that we got at Walmart.
Yep, we could do 100%. We'll go in naked and come out. I don't mean actually.
We don't go into Walmart.
I don't mean actually.
You'd have to have
naked.
your mask.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Mask is required. I mean like strip down with nothing and then come out fully decked out and go try it. But
that'd be a fun video.
It could be.
Speaking, we better get started on it before we release this, or somebody's gonna steal it.
Yeah, I think there's already a ton of videos like that.
No, this is very original.
Original idea. Anyone who's done it stole it from us.
Yeah.
But
that's very true.
Anyways, so It brings me right back. Yeah, you can go to Walmart and pick out stuff, but it brings me right back to, like I said, start out with something that people have had success on before. Maybe go to a Fish USA, or sometimes some local bait shops will sell in bulk. If you talk to them, they can order for you because they have connections, so they can get a little bit cheaper prices.
Or the local guys, they're always talking to the people that are out fishing, so they know what's working.
Yep.
So they buy what the people that are out there catching the walleye keep asking for.
This is just a little side thing. Now that we're talking bait shops, have you found that the bait shop, like the owners, do they do much fishing? Like, that may sound dumb, but
it depends on the bait shop. I've been to bait shops where the owner's not there half the time, and he has a kid or a nephew or a wife or something run it, and he comes back and you'll see him every once in a while because he's out fishing all the time. And I've been to bait shops that are maybe second or third generation or something, that they're just in it for the bait shop and don't really
They're over
know
the
about
fishing part.
Yeah.
Well, because it's got to be a busy. I mean, when you're selling bait is when everybody else is like fishing. So like it's kind of like being like your dad being a hunting guide, where the busiest time where he's out like guiding moose hunts is when he'd want to be moose hunting. So you pick. I just was curious, just a little thought, a little tidbit of information that came into my head. Tom can't stop me from saying it. So
Tidbit.
Yeah,
He
Tom
hates
hates
it.
it when I say tidbit. I'm on like 4 episodes in a row using the word tidbit.
That's very nice.
And but like you said, I was just curious.
Speaking of what tidbit?
Tidbit.
I think
Do you have a tidbit of information for us?
no, but
Not at all.
I think Tim Hortons is one of our frequent listeners on this, and maybe if we
Probably.
keep using tidbit, we can switch it over to
Timothy
like
Horton
Timbits.
listens?
Timbits, yeah. Timothy Horton actually listens to our podcast. We can get some like Timbits or something on here, because as soon as you said, I haven't eaten since like noon, so I'm starving, and I'm just thinking of food.
Go get a tidbit of Timbit. And
Go get.
Tidbits
You know what?
of Timbits.
I think I'm gonna order a. Can I have a tidbit of Timbits and see how many I get?
I dare you to say it.
It's like
Double
ordering
done.
malts vinegar with your fries.
Malt's vinegar. Okay, I'll ask for it. Anyways, back to fishing.
You've had to say that like 10 times in this podcast.
Yeah, it
easy to get
happens every time.
sidetracked.
Every time.
It's a free flowing podcast. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
we don't
It's-
write anything.
It's like the
down.
water. It's free flowing.
flowing, just like
Up and down
Waves.
and around.
no corners. It's like carousel.
It's a carousel. Is
Anyway.
that Wolf of Wall Street?
No, we're done talking about this.
What do you? Not even.
I'm pretty
close.
sure
We're talking about buying lures.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
Happy Gilmore.
I could have swore. No, we're not even going to go
It's Happy Gilmore.
Okay.
I promise you.
Frank said we're done, so we're just.
Anyways.
So basically, you've covered the way to buy lures, right?
Yeah. So line, we could have a whole series of episodes about walleye fishing, but my biggest thing, if you didn't listen to anything from the podcast till now, pay attention right here, because this is what's gonna actually, if you're listening to this because you want to go and catch walleye, this is what you're gonna want to listen to. So, like I said, listen to some other people, but the best way to do it is to get yourself a nice fish finder and figure out where those fish are. Don't waste your whole entire day trolling where there's no fish. Go find the fish. Talk to people. Talk to bait shops. Go on forums. Look online. Figure out where those fish are. Look up past years. Look up forums from 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, and start to put together some pieces of where the fish are and pattern every year, and go to those spots where the fish are. Once you're there, use your nice fish finder, figure out what depth the fish are. Really study your lures, figure out what depth your lures are diving, how to get them back far enough to dive to those depths, and there's a lot of science behind it. If you're just looking to go out and just relax and cast a line in the water and don't really care if you're catching fish, great, by all means, that's awesome. But if you're that guy who wants to put meat in the freezer and fill the cooler, really do your research, and there's some science to it. You got to have your lures where those fish are. If your lures are underneath them, they're not gonna see them. If you're right with them, yeah, that's obviously where you want to be. I like to be a little bit above where the fish are. Their eyes are kind of like muskie and pike and whatnot.
Predatory fish.
Yeah, they're located a little bit higher up on their head, so they can see above them and strike from the bottom. So I like to be just a hair above them, but really figure out where your lures are and what program you're running. If you're running planer boards, then get yourself some nice planer boards, the mast, figure out how to rig your rods up on it and get those fish or those lures down into the fish. If you're fishing dipsy divers, read the back of your dipsy, see how deep it dives, see how deep your lure dives. On top of that, whether you're running lead, whatever, if you're just running a dipsy with a spoon. But
So I this is related to right what you're talking about now with the dipsy diver versus like in the lure. Is it the depth of the dipsy diver, like how far it dives, and then when you're talking about the lure, is that say you have a dipsy diver that goes down 10 foot. I don't even know if that's like
sure.
So 10 foot, and then you have a lure 20. That's 20, and then a lure that's 15 foot. Are you going to be 35 foot down, or does the lure actually get above the dipsy diver?
That's why I'm saying you got to do some studying, because it all depends on how long your leader is, how fast you're moving,
what kind of line you have.
Yep. It all plays in, and that's personally me why I like planer board fishing, is because I have two variables. I have my lure and sometimes lead core. So I still fish lead core on my planer boards. I throw 5 colors out. I get 5 feet per color. That's 25. If I throw a 25-foot diver, I'm at 50 foot. Most of the time, I don't need to be any deeper than 50 feet. So if I need to get a little bit deeper, then I'll throw my lead cores out. Other than that, I got lures that dive anywhere from 3 to 25 feet. So anything, if the fish are suspended at any of those levels, I can fix it just by putting a different lure on. I don't have to pull in line or let line out or adjust my dipsy or whatever. And if I really, really need to get deep, I can throw jet divers on, which is basically like a dipsy diver that doesn't plane out to the sides. It just goes straight down. So I can put a 30-foot dipsy diver on, or a jet diver with a spoon, and now I have a spoon at 30 foot. So there's just, like I said, there's a lot of science
of big
to
equations
it.
that you got to figure
out. Look up your speeds. Make sure,
like trolling speeds.
Yep. Whether you have a GPS on your boat, a fish finder, pull up your phone and see what your phone's GPS says. If you have a fish hawk, use that. Fish hawks are phenomenal. They tell you how fast you're moving, how fast your lures are moving, the water temp. So if there's current,
does it read that kind of like a fish finder, like the speed of your lure? Like how does that work?
So what a fish hawk is it looks like a little fish finder kind of. It's just a little LCD screen on the back of the boat or the front, wherever you mount it, and it's got a probe that you attach to your downrigger ball, and you send the probe down, and what it does is, the surface temperature of the water. You got your transducer that's reading the surface temp and your surface speed from the satellite. Well, the probe, what it does is it goes down to however deep your lures are. Say your lures are at 30 feet. You lower your probe down to 30 feet, and it tells you the water temp at 30 feet, and it tells you how fast it's actually moving. So if you're going with current, you might not be moving as fast as you think you are. Your lures might be kind of just riding with the current, and you're really moving at 1.5 versus 2.5.
Which can make the difference, correct?
Yep. If you're going against the current, you might be moving at 3.5, when your boat speeds, like your satellite speeds, you're only moving 2, but your lures are moving 3.5. So one of the big things, this is another, you know what? I don't know what the range is here, because I'm not a regular on the show, but I'm gonna do a write it in pen here.
Write it down.
Yeah. So if you guys,
I was gonna ask you to do a write it in pen later.
Well, I already did it.
Yeah. You're one of the OGs on here, so you can kind of just do that.
It's a free for all.
I'm just doing whatever.
Write 10 things.
I was
in pen.
feeling it. Yeah. If grab a pen, write it down.
Wet your quill.
Yep. Wet your quill. That's nice. Old school.
You got a hat that says old school.
First thing, make sure you have like a good, reliable crew that knows what they're doing, because driving the boat, being the captain, just as important as your guys running the rods. If you don't have rods in the water, you're not catching fish. But the ride it and pen is to make sure that you're watching your rods, like the action of the rods. And I fish with all like rods on a side. So I have 4 of the same rods on one side, 4 of the same rods on the other. That way when they're in the holders, I can see them and they all should look identical because they're the same exact rod. If one of them is out of sync, like pulling a little bit harder or not moving with the waves like the rest of them are, 9 times out of 10, that's the rod that's got a fish on it.
So it's more than just OCD and like brand loyalty. You just a lot of it's it's like uniformity.
I do have OCD, yes,
yeah.
But it does make it a lot easier. And what I'm saying about watching your rods, say your GPS says you're moving at 2 miles an hour and your rods are sticking straight up in the air and your line's not tight, maybe you should speed up a little bit just to get those rods pulling a little bit to get your lures digging. Say you're moving 2-2 and you're going against the waves and your rods are just bending and creaking, you might be moving a little fast. So get to know your rods, get consistent with them, and really watch the rods, because a lot of times if I don't have the fish hawk out, I don't care. There's sometimes I could be running 3-2 and people are like, you're running over 3 miles an hour. Well, I'm watching my rods, and just by feel and I'm still catching fish, but
It's the old school fish hawk.
yeah. So yeah, you're just looking at your rods, and I'm like, usually my rods are bending a little more than this. Hey, you speed it up, or wow, these rods, I'm only going 1.9 and my rods are creaking at the handle, so I better slow down. So that's my ride it and pen. Really, really pay attention to your rods and get similar rods. That really helps.
Yeah, really get to know
That's
your tackle.
A good point, like that I never really would have thought of. Because like I always just thought it was like, you want to have the same brand, stuff.
Yeah.
Like somebody that doesn't want to wear Nike shoes with Adidas sweatpants.
Yeah.
I always thought that's the only reason, everybody runs Shimano and Abu Garcia or whatever.
Yeah.
But it actually makes sense now that I'm hearing that if you have all of the same exact products, it's one less variable that, like you were talking earlier, the less variables you have in the equation, the easier it is for you to get on fish.
Yep.
So I like that a lot, actually.
So then, and that's about really, all that's gonna tie up for walleye fishing.
I did want to ask, being that that's pretty much your conclusion with walleye. I know you do a little bit of lake trout as well, which obviously it's not fished the same, but like if you're into walleye fishing and stuff, I feel like it's something you can easily get into.
If you're into walleye fishing, what's nice and kind of a necessary evil at the same time, sometimes walleye fishing can really engulf you in equipment. You're going to be in the hole quite a bit. It's kind of expensive to start up. It doesn't have to be. If you start with 2 rods and 2 reels, and then that's
and
all you start
jigging
with.
too on a kayak or something.
Yeah, if you even if you do get a big boat and you didn't realize that, oh, well, I got the walleye boat, but I don't have any of the equipment, you can still take it out where those other guys are and jig for them. So no matter what equipment you got, you can make it work. But what is nice is once you do have that setup, yeah, it does now open you up to a range of other fishing tactics. I've seen people that use similar setups muskie fishing. If you're a muskie fisherman and you have your walleye setup, and
So
yeah,
you're trolling for muskie?
Yeah, yep, trolling for muskie. You're not going to use your downriggers and your big planer boards and everything, but they make smaller inline planers and use you can use, if you get your medium action rods that might be a little bit light for muskie, but they still work and you can get the fish in. So I've seen a lot of people do that use similar reels and whatnot. Like you mentioned, lake trout. Same thing. A lot of times lake trout are just a little bit deeper. You can use your same rods, your same reels, just get your bait down deeper. A lot of people fish spoons for trout. That's just what they like. They'll still hit sticks, but they like spoons, night crawler harnesses and stingers. Some people fish stuff like that, big flashers, but flashers are more towards salmon, which great. That's a whole nother setup that once you have this walleye setup, you can go start fishing for salmon with that. So You might have to beef up a reel, like get some bigger reels or some stiffer rods or whatnot. But if you think that, okay, my two main things I'm going to fish are walleye and lake trout, then get kind of happy medium for both of them. If you're going to go, well, I want to use this for muskie too, well, then you could probably beef everything up so that your rods are good for muskie. Then you got lake trout and salmon covered. You might be a little overkill for walleye. It might be a little bit tougher, so you might end up having to buy another setup, but it really does open a lot more opportunities for you. Like that.
I'm glad you said that, because like that's kind of what I was getting at is, like it's the same thing. Hunting's kind of the similar way. Like with a purchase of a bow or something, it opens up avenues for several other species, and even there's
even just different difficulties with that species.
Oh yeah, well,
you get a bow and I killed a bear, but I've never killed a bear with a bow. Now
that's what. So like it's
try and do.
Well, that's one thing. I guess where this road was taking me here was how versatile like the outdoors is and stuff. Where like you don't have to.
So versatile. If I want to take my Fenwick fishing rod into my hunting stand, then that's double purpose.
Exactly. You get over one of those watering holes.
Yep.
And you can cast top waters while you're waiting.
You can take a bow fishing though. We've done it. We've talked about it. But continue.
You know what I'm getting at is like, so like White Cat Outdoors, like the biggest thing we always talked about, is that we're bringing you
outside.
That
Not yet.
I'm getting anxious.
Nope, sorry, it's over. No, we're bringing you to the table while we talk about the outdoors. And one thing I wanted to hit on, especially with this episode, is that, that you can. There's so many different avenues in the outdoors. Like if you want a walleye fish, it's already set you up to do or target several other species. And the same for hunting. Like if you've picked, I want to hunt deer, with that setup there, you can go after several other types of animals.
Oh yeah.
And my grandpa and your dad's big on it too, where the caliber of your rifle isn't necessarily the biggest concern when hunting. Like it's how well you shoot it.
No.
Like you can,
the bigger the gun, the bigger deer
you can buy a 30-30 or a 30-06, a 243, and you can use it for whitetail, elk, moose, bear, all the way up through. So it's not such a niche thing, which I really like because at a low cost, you can get into it.
Just like that, you can go out and you can buy your $300 Shimano's and your brand new rods and whatnot, and I'm not talking bad on them at all. They make a phenomenal product, and my grandpa has them. I use them, and I got pen reels on some of them, like some of my bigger reels with lead cores, and you can go name brand and get the top of the line, and it's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but there are the old timers or the old fashioned guys, or even some people that just don't want to spend the money on it or can't afford it, or that's just what they're using is older equipment or even just newer equipment that's
a little cheaper,
lower on the shelf. And they can catch just as many fish. Like you were saying, the Walmart challenge, you can catch fish on whatever. I mean, it does make it a little bit easier and can give you an advantage having some of the nicer stuff, but don't focus on his boat's nicer. Like that's a good analogy. You're saying your gun doesn't really matter. Well, your gun could be a lower caliber. Well, if your boat's junky, who really cares? If you got the nice equipment and everything to get your lures down there and catch fish and know what you're looking for and whatnot, I don't care if you're out there paddle boating on a raft. Like
if you know what you're doing,
you know what you're doing and you're catching fish. That's all that matters.
Really, the only thing the boat's doing is
keeping you out of the water, keeping you dry, really.
Keeping you dry and dragging you around the lake. Your rods and reels and lures are doing the rest of the work.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
But speaking of, we were talking about salmon fishing. We kind of ventured off into that. I did want to mention that my Alaska trip is coming up.
It's right around the corner.
I'm hoping that COVID guidelines aren't restricting anything on our trip and making it difficult for me, but we'll make whatever work. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting excited for that, just to keep you guys in the loop. I'm leaving August 5th, and we'll be back the 17th. So
you might be back before I leave for Alaska, so we might be able to do a podcast before I leave.
Okay.
It'll be real close.
Do a little recap.
Yeah,
and,
a recap for you and a going away for me.
That'd be perfect.
Be a fun little episode.
Yeah.
Another thing too, I don't know how many of you guys are just biting at the bit for our next YouTube video, but I know
I am.
I know we haven't posted in a while, but
Actually, we post to YouTube every week.
we do our podcast
Technically.
but
We've steered most of our listeners off of YouTube to like the podcast platforms because it's easier for us to monitor what people like and everything. So,
but anyways, we ran into a little obstacle, and some of the stuff we're doing, it's not cheap, but we're doing it for you guys with all the audio equipment and the camera equipment and whatnot, and we ran into a little pinch with some editing computer and software and whatnot, so we're kind of in the middle of the process of getting a new computer and getting ready to get back on film, and I haven't filmed anything in probably over a month, and I'm itching to. So once we can get that computer, and we'll start filming some more, and hopefully getting some higher quality videos up for you guys, some more entertaining videos, some interactive videos maybe that you guys can comment on and get heard, and maybe change the turnout of the video on the next one, whether what we do, pick a challenge or something, get a shout out, whatever it is.
It'd be fun, doing little challenges throughout the season.
Yeah, so I'm hoping I really have some big plans. I've been thinking about it a lot, really studying some other YouTubers that are popping right now, so hopefully our content can get a lot better and start pulling some more people. But that's really, I don't know really what our time is, how long we've been ripping.
We're getting close to an hour, so I mean we don't have a stopwatch that says we're done here, but basically the conversation itself kind of tells us that.
Yeah.
But before we did wrap it up, for me and Frank talked about it a little bit earlier, but just I know this whole episode was focused on fishing, but just real quick here at the end, if you stayed with us this long and you're into hunting, there's with Lone Wolf, they got this new product out, the double sticks, or the double step sticks, which there's a lot of guys, that are into like the mobile hunting, and there's always the big debate versus like single or double steps. And if you're into that kind of thing, you already know what I'm talking about, like single versus double steps. But Lone Wolf came out with a new
dubstep. Is that?
No, it has nothing to do with music.
Is that,
not like that.
That was perfect.
Is that good dubstep?
Just like that.
That was a little better. Maybe we're gonna steer our YouTube channel towards dubstep.
Actually, we already have that. Like, if you go in some of the comments of our podcast, like there's like sound producers. Like, I'm pretty sure they're like robots, but actually I know they're robots. But
bots.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
But anyway, so what I was getting at here, if you're a double stick guy, Lone Wolf just released their new double steps. And they had a small release of like just a small batch that they put out there. We were lucky enough to get our hands on them. So we are going to do a little bit of review. So I talked to Andre today, the guy that developed them. He said that they're actually able to produce these pretty quick. So they're going to be on the market pretty easily here within the next few weeks and before season. So we're going to try and put something together. We're going to use them and let people know. So if you're either on the fence between double steps or single step, or if you're looking for a new set of double steps, be on the lookout for that as well. But since Luke was our guest and he already yelled it once, figured I'd let Luke take us out of here if he's got any closing remarks. But he knows how to finish it up.
Yeah, so I don't really have a whole lot else for anybody. Just kind of everything that I wanted to get out, I did. So I am kind of honored that I was chosen to inform everybody listening to get outside.